The World Ends With You, like any RPG, features statistics for the characters that affect their abilities in battle. The way you raise these stats are very different from normal RPGs, however, and this video will be going over my preferred ways for maxing each stat. These may not be the best ways in the game, but there really is no best way to grind out the stats. While some ways are objectively faster or slower, really the most important part is what you can stand to do for a while, because no matter what method you use, it's going to take you a few hours to max each stat. While I will be using Final Remix when talking about my grinding methods, all but one of these methods still work in the original game, and I'll give a suggestion for the original game when we get to that method. However, I've never played any other version of the game, so I can't say if they will work in those versions or not. If you know of better ways to grind, let me hear them down in the comments. I'm always eager to hear new ways to do this sort of thing. To begin, let's briefly go over what stats The World Ends With You actually has, and what they do. When checking the item menu, you'll see your character's stats listed underneath their food and equipment. These stats are HP, Defense, Attack, and Bravery. Your HP, or hit points, are how many hits you can take before you die. Furthermore, unlike the other three stats, HP is a singular number that is shared between every character, so it doesn't need to be raised individually. Defense is how much damage you take per attack, while Attack is how much damage you do per attack. Bravery is the unique stat of this game, and it determines what clothes, known as threads, that you can equip. Threads that give better stats and better abilities have higher bravery requirements, with the best threads in the game requiring anywhere from around 400 to maxed out bravery to wear. To actually increase these stats, you need to have your characters eat food. Each food adds different stats and has a number of bites, which represents how many battles you're required to fight before the character digests the food, and the stats are permanently added to their total, and bites can range from 1 to 24. Unfortunately, each character is locked to 24 bites per day real time, unless you have an item known as the Hollow Leg, which is a post-game item that you can buy at Shibuya Head's first floor for 3 Scarlatite. If you plan to get the secret reports or do anything on higher difficulties, it is absolutely vital that you make sure to get this item first, otherwise your grinding attempts are going to be heavily throttled. For grinding methods, I'm going to sort the stats into 3 groups: HP, Defense Attack, and Bravery. This is because my method for raising attack and defense is the same, while HP and Bravery have their own methods for raising them. Furthermore, each group has its own cap. HP caps at 9,999, though its actual value will depend on what your level is currently set at. Defense and Attack cap at 100, and Bravery caps at 999. As a note in Final Remix, the current partner Neku is using will add their stats to his when playing in single player, so it's still worth raising them even if you're not playing the game co-op. There are 2 main parts to your stats: your base stats, which are in black, and your thread stats, which are in green. With the exception of HP, which again scales with your level, your base stats are completely static and will never change, regardless of what level you're at. Your thread stats, on the other hand, are dependent on what thread your character is wearing, and while these also don't scale with level, you can change them just by changing the equipment somebody has. Thread stats also aren't affected by the hard cap that the base stats are, again with the exception of HP. What this means is that you need to both wear good threads and max out your base stats in order to make your characters as strong as possible. You can't neglect one or the other. As an aside, Bravery does not need to be capped for most characters. The only character who really needs Bravery to be capped is Joshua, because one of Joshua's unique threads, which is the best in the game for him, requires his Bravery to be at maximum. The other characters can get away with their Bravery around 300 to 500, depending on what threads you want them to wear. While I listed the stats in menu order before, HP, Defense, Attack, and Bravery, for this video I'm going to list the stats in the order I think is the most efficient way to grind them up. Final Remix added a new way to grind stats that is, bar none, the fastest way for the first 3 stats. The Gourmet Rice Ball, also known as the Gourmet Sushi Ball, is an item that adds 100 to HP and 10 each to Defense, Attack, and Bravery, and it goes down in a single bite. Since Defense and Attack cap at 100 each, you only need to get a max of 10 per character, with less depending on how much you've raised their stats while playing. While this is an item that you can buy, it's sold in Mind and Body Foods at the Shibuya department store, that's not the best method for getting this item because it requires a whopping 30 Rubellite, 30 Morganite, and 30 Taffyite to just get one. The best method is actually to do a small little gauntlet that is unlocked when you first finish a new day. But before you start going to the gauntlet, you need to prepare a little bit. First, head to the pharmacy, Nishimura Drugs, and Shibuya Heads and buy as many Brave Plus as you can. You may also want to stock up on other stat boosting items for things like HP, but keep the bites down to as low as possible as you can when doing so. Second, go to the Shibuya department store and buy the pin Zip Zap Zipper. You don't need to do anything with it, but we do actually have to have it. Once you've done these, we can begin. Select a new day 3 and then skip the cutscenes. You'll start in 10-4 and we want to get to the Rubicon, so the route is as follows. Spain Hill, Toa Records, Scramble Crossing, Kadoi City, Station Underpass, Trail of the Center, Rubicon. Once there, a wall reaper will ask you for the Zip Zap Zipper, and on seeing that you have it, will bring down the wall. Make sure that both characters have eaten whatever food you want them to, set your difficulty to easy, and set your level to be low enough to increase the drop rate, but high enough to make you comfortable. I usually had mine around 40 and 50 when I was around 60 to 85, but adjust it based on your own skills because you're going to be fighting a lot of dissonance noise with all 4 of the battle effects active. Keep in mind, however, that these are not considered boss fights, meaning you can use whichever of the 3 partners you want. You can even exploit this by stocking up on sync bars at the pharmacy, putting a sync plus thread on all 3 partners, and repeatedly firing off fusion attacks to end the battles quickly. Once your preparations are done, just continue down the linear path. There will be a wall reaper who challenges you to a fight to get to the Dead God's pad, at which point you need to scan for a door and interact with it to go through it. From there, there's 2 more reapers with 2 more fights, and once you beat the 3rd reaper, he'll give you the gourmet rice ball. If one of your characters has digested the food, give them the rice ball. If not, give it to them the moment they do. Go into your menu and select a new day 3 again to reload the day, then repeat the above steps until Neku, Shiki, Joshua, and Beat all have 100 in defense and attack. Doing so will also have significantly raised your HP in general and Bravery on 4, especially if you stocked up on food and had them eat it during the 3-fight gauntlet, which is why we do this step first. It lessens the amount of time needed for the other steps. If you are not playing Final Remix, the best way to grind these stats is the pharmacy and Shibuya Heads. Make sure you have a good stock of money, head there, and buy as many of the following as possible. Attack capsules, defense medicine, step outside, feed your character, and grind the noise there until you've digested all of what you have, stepping out and in of Shibuya occasionally to respawn them. This is around 5 times slower or so than the Final Remix version, however, so I only suggest it if you aren't playing Final Remix, or if you just really cannot handle the dissonance noise right now. While the Gourmet Rice Ball is very good for raising all stats, it's actually not the best way to raise your bravery, though some people would prefer to grind through the Rice Ball anyway. My method is a bit different. Brave Plus, bought at the pharmacy, raises your bravery by 20 while going down in 3 bites. It sounds inferior at first, but because you have to go through 3 fights to get the Rice Ball anyway, it ends up either being ahead or breaking even, depending on your opinion. It does require a lot of money, however, which is why this comes after you've done the gauntlet to max out everyone's defense and attack. If you did the fights on easy like I suggested, you should be drowning in money, which means it should be easy to keep buying them. As for the actual method, simply go to Shibuya Heads, buy 9 of them, step outside, feed them to the desired characters, and chain 3 noise together. Once you're finished, feed the characters again and chain 3 more. Repeat this method, stepping out and back into Shibuya Heads as necessary for respawns, until your character's bravery is the number that you want it to be. As I said before, bravery is the one stat you don't really need to cap on everyone. The only item that requires maximum bravery is the Angel Feather, which is an accessory that goes on Joshua to raise his sync rate, so he's the only person who needs to cap it. There's a reason HP is last here, and that's because, unfortunately, I've never found a way to grind HP that feels smooth and fast. Most food that increases HP requires a lot of bites to go down, or only increase HP in small increments. As I stated before, the fastest method is the same way that you grind defense and attack using the Gourmet Rice Ball, but I've never really liked that method because of how long it takes to actually get the food. If that works for you though, then perfect! The way I personally grind HP is that I cap defense and attack on everyone, raise Neku's bravery as high as I want it, and then just have Neku eat any and all HP food I bought while I grind Joshua's bravery to the maximum at Shibuya Heads. Since HP is shared between all characters regardless of who raises it, and I'm grinding for Joshua to be able to wear the Angel Feather anyway, it feels the most organic and less frustrating to me. If you're not playing Final Remix, my method is likely the best method there is for you to use. And that's it! You've now capped everyone's stats and can go after threads or the secret reports with abandon. I hope this video helped you, and if there's a method I don't know, or a method that you personally prefer, please tell me down in the comments. Thanks so much for tuning in.